In fact, when the recession was at its worst in Canada, they ran a survey of Canadian business owners in 2010, and the business owners said the recession had forced them to be better business people because they didn't have the resources to throw money at problems. So one example of this, I always pick on my poor mother who bought my liquor store, this liquor store that I own now. My mother bought it in 1992, and the guy before her had just not carried much wine. In fact, I think he had every wine that Gallo made with a screw top, but I don't think he had very many wines like with a cork. And in the back room, and that was in 92, and any good wine came with a cork at that time. And so there was no place to store all those wines that Mom was starting to carry in the back room on their side so they would stay in good shape. So she had to figure out either spend money on custom wine racking, which they make, you know, this works perfectly for wine bottles, or commercial shelving that she could use, or she went out to her storage building and found the bookshelves she had been holding on for 3 moves and brought them to the liquor store and took the cardboard boxes that wine comes in and puts them on their side, and that is what we are using 20 years later. A larger company that put their creative brain power to use and benefited from it is REI, Recreational Equipment Incorporated. Anybody got an REI jacket or a tent or something? Yeah, a couple of people. REI is a cooperative. They are a cooperative. It's a membership thing where what it started as, it's 1938. 1938, a group of 23 men who were mountain climbing buddies wanted to buy climbing gear, you know, beaners and ropes and stuff, and they wanted to buy in bulk and share the cost savings. Well, it was 1938. There's not a bank in the world that was going to loan them money. So what they did is they formed this cooperative and used that as their financing. That's how they got off the ground. And it's working for them to this very day. They are the largest consumer cooperative in the United States, 4 million active members, and it's still only $20 to be a member. So the third rule is multiply your lines of income. This is how you end up owning a liquor store and a cattle ranch and speaking to people about small business, is because I know that, say, if it's a bad year in the cattle market, then you hope that it's a good year in the liquor market because all the cattlemen need to go get a drink because they feel bad. So everything evens out. It works. It works. You can also do this with a big company. So no less than Sir Richard Branson, who decided he needed a record store. And then he decided, well, you know, I also need a recording studio. And then he decided he needed 200 different brands. But he didn't try to start them all at once. He did like a farmer, and he started them one at a time. You establish one crop and let it get established. And then you plant your next crop and get it established. And he has now 200 different brands. He was interviewed in 2010 about how the portfolio of Virgin brands had survived so well in a tough economy, and he credited their diversification and their long-term outlook and their dedication to staying small. That's 3 small-town rules in one interview from one knighted business entrepreneur. So realistically, that kind of diversification can really help even if you are a large business. Rule 4 is to work anywhere, anywhen. How many of you snuck in a little email work already this morning while I was talking? Not while I was talking. Okay, okay. But, you know, I understand. I understand. And what'd you say, working in the bathroom? Is that what you said? Oh, is bad multitasking right there. So you do want to work anywhere and anywhen within reason. But here's a couple of examples of companies that have rethought our concepts of location and time. Hop Union, how many of you know what hops are used for? Beer. Okay, hops are used to brew beer and to give it that good bitter flavor. That's what the hops are for. They are grown in a very limited latitude band, and so Washington State happens to be one of the few places that they grow a lot of hops. And in Washington State is this little company called Hop Union. They focus on the small individual growers. They buy their crops, and they connect to the multitude of small individual brewers. So while each brewery would have a hard time connecting with each hop grower, they act as the middle point and connect all of those. Now, they didn't build their own distribution system. They used the existing distribution system of FedEx. And so that saved them an enormous wad of building a whole nother company just to run trucks. Rural sourcing. This is a Globalization Today magazine, which is an outsourcing magazine, put up the headline said, "Is this your next IT hub?" And they show this big empty field. So rural sourcing is taking a contract that might have gone to a big city company and that then maybe have been outsourced overseas. What if we took the same contract and put it into a small town where the cost of doing business is less? If we went to Perry, Oklahoma, and found technology-savvy individuals there, the cost of doing business is so much less than, say, downtown Chicago. How much money could be saved for the company, but keeping the contract within our country? The rule number 5 is to learn customer-driven communication. This is the social media rule for those of you that were waiting for one. This is where we know that our customers drive communication at us using a broad variety of tools now. It's not just that you have to only answer the phone. It's that your customers are communicating with you all the time using every tool they can get their hands on. Number 6, which is to be proud of being small, because right now U.S. consumers are very interested in small businesses. It took just one too many, too big to fail before we stopped caring about the big businesses anymore. So now we're putting all of our emphasis on our small businesses. And in fact, American Express's survey in 2011 showed that 3/4 of U.S. consumers would prefer to buy from a small business because they felt like they would get better service. And I will point out that is a complete reversal from how we were, say, a decade before that, when we all preferred to buy from a big business because we felt the standards of quality would be better. So it is a complete reversal in your customers' thinking. Now is the perfect time to be proud of being small. Now, the last rule is to be local. Be local. We've talked a lot about local, and I know that local is very much on everyone's minds. So let's talk about a few examples of companies that really get being local. And the first one we're going to do is Shiner Beer. And you know where they're from? Shiner, Texas. She even said it with her accent. I love it. Shiner, Texas. And their boxes, in fact, say brewed and bottled with care in the small town of Shiner, Texas. So you remember we talked about Rolling Rock, talked about being born in a small town. Shiner lives in a small town to this very day. And they're showing off their local favorite. The ones that their customers in Shiner love the most is the Shiner Blonde, because it gets really hot in Shiner, and so they like a nice light beer to go with. But see, they know that you will be influenced by knowing what is the most favorite beer in their location, even though you're not from Shiner. They're tying into their local favorite.